afternoon, everyone, and thank you for watching the Capital Beat podcast, streamed live here from Inside Scoop Studios and streamed to 802 Scoop. In the room with us today, we have Topper McFawn, Representative Topper McFawn, Representative Gina Galfetti, and Representative Mike Taglavia. Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Great.
Having a fantastic afternoon.
Doing well.
Enjoying the weather.
Yes, the weather is beautiful out. I cannot deny that.
Spring is in the air.
And that's one of the safe topics that we have here on Capital Beat.
Yes, that is one of the safe topics. Do we
Always
want,
good to segue into that, Mike. Thanks so much.
Do we want to establish a safe word? Do we like what?
Sunny side up.
Should we say squirrels? Is that going to be the safe word? Oh, man. So has it been crazy in your groups?
Our committees?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This week was fun.
It was fun this week?
Oh, yeah. There was some topics that it was, pretty contentious for a little while.
So let's go through the list here and find out what committees everyone is on. So I'm on Commerce and Economic Development. Topper?
I'm on healthcare and a discrimination committee too.
Okay.
I'm also on the anti-discrimination panel, as well as corrections and institutions is my main committee.
And I'm on the Environment Committee.
That is not a committee that I would want to be on, I'm just saying. So did any of you have any bills that came out not unanimous?
Yes, our committee did. What was it? 319, I think, was the bill number. The 3-acre rule bill that came out 9-2. I was one vote against, and one of my other committee members voted against it. It's just.
Was that you and Pritchard?
Yes, me and Representative Chris Pritchard voted against it. There was a lot of testimony. We did make a lot of good corrections to the bill, but I didn't like it. I still don't like it because of the cost to all of the people. Number one, there's 677 properties that are on the list for the 3-acre rule right now, and the way the cost of achieving the TMDL, total maximum daily load, is anywhere from $20,000 all the way up to exceeding $70,000 per acre. So it's going to put a hurting on a lot of people's savings and business income. So although it was improved, I still don't like the idea. That's why I voted against it.
So it definitely was not 319 because you voted yes on that one. That came out 100%.
The 319 was the Fish and Wildlife technical corrections, maybe? I can't remember. We went through a bunch of them.
I'm not sure.
And that's the thing with crossover. You're going through so many things so quickly.
When did you vote it out?
This week, only either Thursday or Friday. I think it was on Friday.
It was on Friday?
We did it, yeah.
Let me go take a look and I'll...
238 was the PFAS bill that came out earlier in the week. That came out unanimous. That was removing or banning certain items that had PFAS in them, and it laid out dates for future bans.
An act relating to stormwater management. I bet you that
was the one, yeah. The 3-acre rule, yeah.
Yep. So can you explain that for folks that may not know what that is, such as myself?
Basically, the 3-acre rule, it's talking about impervious surface of 3 acres or more on a property, and the impervious surface refers to either a roof or a driveway or some sort of paved area on a property. They're calling pools impervious surface. Are you kidding me?
Because of how quickly they fill up.
Really?
Yep.
So when you look at certain properties, an impervious surface, if you have a gravel driveway, that is still considered impervious surface. So if you have a property that the calculation comes up to 3 acres or more, you're going to wind up finding yourself caught up in this. Right now, it's only for the Champlain Valley watershed, not really this side of the state, but in the bill, there is, I think, I forgot the dates. It was 28 is when they expect the TMDL will come out for nitrogen in the Connecticut River Valley watershed, which will affect this side of the state and our district. So there's trouble on the horizon when it comes to that, and we'll wait and see what the expense for that will be. Hopefully, we'll be able to, in maybe next session or hopefully in the very near future, figure a way to make this less expensive. It's when you look at the cost per kilogram to remove phosphorus, it's higher than the price of gold. So,
Well, and I think
it's
it's
just-
important to note too that that's a federal thing that's coming down. It's a federal mandate from the Clean Water Act
yeah.
that's driving all
EPA
of this
driving, yes.
legislation. And, you know, it started out with the Lake Champlain watershed because that's a federal waterway, because Lake Champlain is a federally controlled body of water, and the Connecticut River is going to be added into that in the future.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you did, that it wasn't going to affect us now.
It's because the Connecticut
I
River
thought the
Valley
one-
watershed, they're concerned with nitrogen. This TMDL right now is about phosphorus getting into Lake Champlain.
Yeah,
So,
but I thought the Winooski River,
Yeah, no, it
Oh, well,
affects us currently.
It
for
affects
sure.
us.
that is right. Okay,
Yeah.
the Winooski River. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
in my district it won't.
your
just yet,
district
Yeah.
but
maybe
yours
not,
It is.
yeah.
Okay.
It affects
right.
us, I know that.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but the one good thing is, just this week, Lee Zeldin, the Secretary of the EPA, came out with a statement that hopefully will give us a little bit of relief. So maybe there will be a little bit of a relaxing of this
Yeah.
3 acre rule, so that we'll be able to get a handle on it, and it'll be a little bit more affordable for
but
all
there's no-
the property owners.
There's no way that people can
Yeah.
pay that amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, we heard testimony from landowners that were saying, you know, some said it might put them out of business. The other ones would say, there goes their profit. And we had one couple who is in a subdivision in Richmond who said, you know, it was one of those things where they were thinking about, they like the neighborhood they're in, but they may not be able to afford it and might need to move. And how many times have we heard that before?
Yeah.
So affordability, again, this does not go to helping the affordability problem we have in the state right now.
Well, and it's also driving problems at the state level, because there's a ton of state lands and buildings that are owned that are subject to the 3 acre rule right now, that
Yeah.
those are going to have to come into compliance. So Vermonters are going to have to carry the heavy lift of bringing those places into compliance.
And one of the lists we saw from the EPA, the A&R, they had a list of some of the, it was the green schools and some other properties, I think, that are included in what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
the average cost, I think, came to just around $73,000 per acre.
Yeah.
Per acre,
those
depending
sites.
on what kind of space limitations you have. You know?
And how extensive the system designed to try to remove the phosphorus.
Yeah.
And stop the sedimentation.
You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
the Champlain Valley Fairgrounds are going to be subject to this, and they don't have the space to go out, so they're going to have to figure out something on the property as it exists to contend with the 3 acre rule, and it's not going to be cheap.
No, and Rutland Fair is in a really bad spot because all the building and infrastructure around it, there's no place to go. The only thing they would be able to do is possibly do something underground in all the inside of where they are, inside the boundaries, but they don't even know where all the infrastructure is underneath.
I can tell you that they can't afford.
No,
to do
no, they
all
can't.
that.
It's going to put them out of business. It's in the millions.
The fairgrounds, they actually came and testified before our committee. Well, they didn't testify before our committee. They introduced themselves. We got free maple syrup. It was pretty awesome.
Oh,
I know.
That's
you jealous?
nice.
You jealous?
They're very
We haven't
no.
got
They
maple
distributed
syrup yet.
maple syrup in my committee as well, Mike.
Well, I'll say that they're on a tight tight
Yes.
budget. They're shoestring those
Yeah.
fairgrounds.
Just the
that's-
engineering alone on some of these, the cost of it is astonishing. So,
Well, and that's such a part of Vermont's fabric to have these fairs and to bring this
yeah.
revenue in, and it's for the little guy, and we're just hamstringing these fairs to a huge degree, especially when you don't have the kinds of volunteer labor that you used to have years ago that are willing to go in and roll up their sleeves and do something about this. And this is above and beyond what you can expect a small fair to absorb the cost on.
Yeah. That's
the
too
one
bad
good-
because one of the most exciting things which we get in the state of Vermont is our fairgrounds.
Yeah.
You know.
So the one good part of the bill that came out of it was a study group to try to figure out a way to make a stormwater utility to try to find ways in areas like these fairgrounds and other places where they don't have the space to meet the TMDL or even 50% of it, to find other places that maybe would exceed their level needed to try to find it.
Strike some sort of balance
right,
there,
to strike
yeah.
a balance to make it easier. So with a little bit of hope that will work, but there's still a lot of work yet to be done. A lot of
Well,
work.
the other thing too is throughout the state, when developers built the houses and got all the permits and all that kind of stuff, after they finished, some developers didn't get the stormwater permit.
Right, or they didn't maintain them, and
They
that's what
didn't
some of
maintain
these
it.
people in pre-existing
Yeah.
subdivisions are finding out after the fact.
That's exactly right. And Gina and I were involved in one of
Yeah,
them.
or the town stepped in to maintain
Yeah.
the permit. And with the permit having to be pulled in the first place, that's what's making all these developments subject to the 3-acre rule in the first place. Because you've got developments that are right next to developments that certainly wouldn't be in compliance today, that as newer developments, they're subject to that. And it's tricky. It's gonna be tough. We're gonna have to negotiate with the feds, and we're also gonna have to continue to do work, as your committee has done, on what we can do on this statewide policy to come into compliance with that.
Yeah, also the mobile homes, the mobile home parks.
Yes.
Have a big problem with it.
Right.
Just imagine that one.
Right, yeah, where are they going to come up with that kind of money? So that's
Right.
one of the reasons why I brought up the statement from Lee Zeldin with some of the regulations. I think there's 31 that they're revisiting or getting rid of altogether that hopefully will help to ease our situation, or maybe at least leave them open to the possibility of working with the state of Vermont. Obviously, we want to take the phosphorus and the pollution out of the rivers and the lakes, but we want to be able to do it at an affordable cost for Vermonters.
And we have to be careful about that too.
Yeah.
Because people who live in higher elevations, like let's say the city of Barry and the town of Barry, people up top, there's not a lot of phosphorus going on up there. There's not a lot of farms or any of that stuff anymore.
right.
So it comes down here, and then you have all this impervious stuff.
Well, it's the flow, and if it starts to accelerate that, it makes the erosion worse. So
Right.
there's, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts that need to be thought about.
That's right.
To try to address this.
Especially when you're in a housing crisis and you're trying to build housing.
Exactly. Affordability, housing,
Right.
all of this stuff has
It
to
all
work.
comes together.
Yeah.
So now, Gina, you didn't have anything come out of your committee, a split vote?
I think she only has
No,
one bill in her committee.
Just a little
Well,
one.
geez, thanks, Robert. No, right now, Corrections and Institutions is primarily focused on the capital bill. We did do some work with Kids Apart, which is to equalize the child visitation between men's prisons and what they have in women's prisons right now. That was voted out unanimously, and actually, I wasn't there. I probably would have been a no on it because it contains an appropriation that we can't afford right now. But other than that, there's not been anything contentious in my committee. It's primarily been the capital bill, and we were able to shave about $2 million off the capital bill. So that'll go back into the general fund, and the general fund really needs it because the general fund, I heard last week, has upwards of $100 million shortfall right now.
Do you have anything to do with the raise the age
Oy.
piece?
No, that was in the judiciary.
No, raise
No,
the
it's
age
in
was
there,
in
but
judiciary.
it has to
Oh.
deal with,
No, that had nothing to do with
women's
corrections.
center now, okay.
No, nothing so far.
good.
Yeah.
So what come out of your,
Well, we did have a split vote on ours. We had a 7-4. I know, out of Marcotte's committee.
Yeah.
Is that surprising to you?
it was very surprising. Very surprising.
Now, what was that?
It was a bill that was good, but had some concerning aspects of it.
Okay.
To be clear, the overall bill I like because it protects. It gives the ability for, our police officers, our public safety people, right? Our
Fire and EMS and stuff like that?
Not necessarily fire EMS. I don't think. I think it covered mainly like DCF and people that are really at risk of having people to start stalking them to go after them, right? And the bill makes it so that data brokers have to hide their information, and they're not allowed to share the information. The problem that I was having with the bill was the fact that it could impact business-to-business transactions, and it also had a private right of action, which, my understanding, private right of action, dead no matter where it goes, because the governor will not support any type of legislation with a private right of action, which, so anyway, I brought those concerns up, and it was actually 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. It was myself, Miklas, Bosch, and Cooper, Jonathan Cooper. So we voted no on that. It went out of I felt so bad for Michael Marcotte because he
tries to deliver.
He does.
He
not,
came in with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does not. I do not think he likes letting things leave his committee with any type of.
That's the first time since he's been chair, that I've seen a split vote that big come out.
Really?
The first
Oh my
time I can
goodness,
remember.
I feel so bad.
Don't feel bad, you're doing your job.
You're doing your job.
Mike he usually gets everybody, he fixes the bills so that everybody can support it, or 9/10 of them can support
I
it.
don't think we had enough time.
No,
And
I think that
that's
was
what
the-
the problem
And that
was.
brings
That
up a really
comes
good
up
point.
a lot.
That brings up a great point. When you come to crossover and as slow as a session as we've had, and as much as we've had inconsequential legislation come off the wall that we've spent weeks taking testimony on, it seems like we've come down to the final week and taken very hurried testimony on a number of bills and then passed them out without them really going through the full distilling process that should be happening in the legislature.
Yeah. And the idea that, we'll send it to the Senate and they'll clean it up, to me, I don't think is the right way to do it.
No.
Absolutely not.
It's not the right way.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with that. And that comment was made, and I'm like, I ain't signing off on a bill that I have
Right.
no faith in the system.
Here,
That's
this
what I
is still
said.
a
I
mess.
have
You guys
no
fix
faith.
it. That to me is not right.
No.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about one of those. Let's get it over to the Senate
What?
and they'll fix it. I got one of them.
You got,
You got one of them?
Yeah, I got one of them. The Blue Cross, it doesn't even have I don't know, maybe it does now, Michael. But it didn't. The Blue Cross Blue Shield bailout. Our
yes,
committee,
I heard about that.
yeah, our committee,
You've got a lot of controversy there, Topper.
oh, you're not kidding. Our committee took all kinds of testimony in about 6 hours straight.
And try to digest it,
Now
right?
just
All of it.
try to think of yourself. sitting there for that period of time, and you got a couple of breaks.
Yeah.
But thinking of that, on a problem this big, one thing we didn't even know, the Senate had a bill coming the same time, at the same speed, and that came out too. We knew the Senate was working on some kind of a bill, some kind of a healthcare bill. I didn't realize it was part of that until after the whole thing was over.
So did this
And
bill
Ginny
come out?
Lyons,
Okay.
she got interviewed on TV about it. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. I thought it had to come from us first. But anyway, the bailing out the Blue Cross Blue Shield thing, if you lose Blue Cross Blue Shield in the state of Vermont, it's the largest health insurer in the state. I think it's like 85% of the people
Right.
are under their domain. What would that do to the healthcare system? The whole thing.
It would create a mess.
It would crumble. Anyway, so Blue Cross Blue Shield borrows, I think it was $300 million from Michigan. You know, remember how they joined Michigan recently?
Right.
So they borrowed I believe it was $300 million, at 8% or 8.5% interest. Thank you very much, Michigan. That really is going to help. They can't even pay the interest on that loan.
No.
And you got
And that's because Michigan is bailing out Blue Cross Blue Shield in its own state.
Really?
well, almost the Blues all over the country are having a problem right now, from what we understand. So here you go. You got this major problem. They come to the state with open hands. We need $50,000 to finish off the rest of this fiscal year. We need at least that. Can you help us out?
50,000, that's it?
I mean million, excuse me.
Thank you.
50 million.
50,000 we might
Where are
be
we
able
going
to
to
come
get
up
50
with.
million? 650,000 people in the state, half of them don't pay income tax.
Right.
Where are we going to get $50 million to hand over? To give, not to loan, to give. Michigan loaned the money. So we have nothing there. Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think they had, I'll take a guess, 3 weeks maybe of cash
On hand, yeah.
on hand to pay off the bills that they have. Anyway, they had to get bailed out. Lo and behold, we find money in the UVM Health Network. Money that's been sitting there and piling up for a long while. And
Shocker.
guess what happens? They, Green Mountain Care Board is going to rip some of that money back. And that's how Blue Cross Blue Shield and other hospitals that have any kind of a surplus like that, they're going to get the money clawed back. What we had to do is give Green Mountain Care Board the authority to be able to do that, because they regulate their budgets.
Right.
So what they're going to do is they're going to cut their budget way back and rake that money back.
So
That's how they're going to get bailed out. Now, the question I asked is, what happens in June? We bailed them out. They're okay up
Right.
to
You
June.
got them to
Now
the
what
end of the
happens?
fiscal year. Now what? Yeah.
They got this bill that they got to pay in Michigan. The hospitals are their rates are going to be lowered. You know, they can't charge as much to stitch your finger up or whatever else they're going to do. All those rates are going to come way down. What's going to happen to our hospitals?
I'm not a fan of the idea that we only have, one major health insurer and then one small one. We should be, if we can buy life insurance across state lines, car insurance across state lines, we should be able to buy health insurance across state lines.
Good
Well,
idea.
and that's just it. We need competition in the
Yeah,
marketplace.
we absolutely do. Absolutely.
And MVP said if Blue Cross Blue Shield goes under, we're leaving. That would mean
Nobody. Yeah.
nobody's got any health care.
that's a product of Dean, isn't it? Isn't that a product of Dean?
I don't know.
I think that's a product
To me,
of
it doesn't
Dean.
matter who it's a product of. It needs to be
Years
correct.
and
Well-
years ago.
Yeah, years and years ago, the insurance company, I can't remember, it might have been during Dean's time, but the insurance companies that were here left. And Blue Cross Blue Shield and MVP stayed, and Cigna. And that's it. But Cigna doesn't do any, they do the big stuff, you know.
Yeah, they do like
GE
corporate.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, okay.
So there's a good one.
So what did we have? I think I read we had 53 that are they're not quote unquote money bills that actually.
Yes.
So we got to wait till the end of this coming week to see how many bills actually make it out of the House.
Right.
to the
Well,
But it's probably going to be more than 60, right?
well, it'll be 53 plus the capital bill, the T bill, the big bill, and
You got probably 5 healthcare bills.
So we'd be somewhere around 60 by the time we're done.
Yeah.
yeah.
So here's the real question. How many of those bills is Phil Scott going to end up vetoing?
How many of the bills what?
Will Phil Scott end
gonna
up vetoing?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's a
well-
great question, Mike. It's really going to come down to what happens on the floor. I think this is going to be a very exciting floor session.
Yeah.
We're going to need to make amendments and tweaks to these bills at the last minute. This is very reminiscent of the last 2 sessions where, because bills were so hurried, there were a lot of changes made at the last moment. But the Democratic Progressive supermajority in the last 2 sessions didn't have to worry about the veto. And I think they're operating much in the same fashion as they were before, thinking that these hurried bills were going to go through, and that's just not the case this time. And we're going to end up with a huge bottleneck of legislation that does get vetoed. And, my business partner is going to wring my neck because I feel like we're going to be here till June, and we may even be here until the veto session comes up in mid-June.
I hope that's
Yeah.
That is not something I'm looking forward to.
In our committee.
It's not something any of when we think of the issue of affordability for a citizen legislature, it's not anything that anybody that's a business owner works in the real world can afford.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. In our committee, this first session here, up until crossover, with the exception of the bill that I sponsored, that psychologist being able to
Doctorate level psychologists.
doctorate level psychologists be able to prescribe medicine. I found out Friday, just before I walked out the door, the chair of the committee said to me, "Hey, Top, I think your bill's got to go to Ways and Means." For what? Oh, they're going to charge a fee. We're going to put a fee on that for the license that they get.
Of course.
I couldn't
course
believe
they
it. I couldn't believe it. But
Of
that's the only
course.
one that I know of that's going to have to go to Ways and Means so far. So far.
So
Let's talk a little bit about how things in this crossover, what goes on and how fast it goes, and the anxiety you get and the pressure you get put on you.
yeah.
I mean, I can remember talking to Gina in the lunchroom and saying, "Christ, I can hardly see straight." It puts a lot of pressure on you.
Well,
when you got 5 bills that got to be out by 3 days from now.
Well, look, I'm curious. We had the raise the age bill come up,
Yeah.
and then there was the 20-minute caucus called because there was an amendment.
Yeah.
Let's just explain what the raise the age means, because I think that a lot of people don't know what that means. We know only because, well, the only reason why I know what it is because of the session. But do you want to explain that, or do you want me to?
It was, if you have it up there, it's what was it? H2?
Yeah,
An
it
act
was-
relating
it
to
One, wasn't it?
No, H1 was the ethics.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, okay.
But the raise the age, what that did, there's current legislation to automatically bump up the age from, I think it's 19 to 20. Was it
18 to
eventually-
19.
18 to 20?
And with the
to-
goal being
for-
25, I believe.
Yeah, with the goal being 25. It wasn't in the legislation, but to treat criminals as minors.
Right.
So
To
you can
treat-
go to war You can do all
To
sorts
treat
of
it-
things.
At age 18,
To
yeah.
At
treat
age 18,
offenders
but
for
you can't be.
certain violations as minors, i.e., keeping it in family court rather than adjudicating it
Right.
in criminal
don't.
court.
And they can't handle it. The amount of work needed.
The system
they
can't handle
The
it.
system
Right.
can't handle it. So
DCF would never. It's way too heavy of a lift to ask DCF to have all of these offenders transferred into their system. Just as we don't have the capacity to house 18 and 19-year-olds in our current correction system, and that's something that
We're building a building, but it's not going to help at all.
it's not going to help
So-
at all. And we're talking about a large group of offenders, and it all feeds back into why Vermont's open for business for things like drug-related crime, because these youthful offenders are not getting prosecuted in the manner that they should be. So it's very advantageous to bring youth from other states up here because they're going to get a slap on the wrist. It's going to stay in family court rather than going through the typical system, and it just breeds a cycle of this. And the problem with that bill, I think, was that we were going to have I can't remember exactly how it went down. The good thing about the bill was that it raised the age was going to the restrictions on it were going to sunset, and by passing the bill, we've managed to stave off raise the age getting carved into stone. So there was a plus there, but it was a bad bill that you voted yes for because it had a good provision in it, which was going to give us more time to consider whether or not raise the age was appropriate.
Yeah, and they
So
just,
that's a really confusing situation. It's really complicated. The bill pushed out the date that raise the age was going to happen.
right.
Exactly.
It still allowed it to happen, but just pushed it out
That's
2
right.
years.
That's right.
So it was tabling it for 2 years.
As opposed to direct implementation.
Correct. And for what Gina was talking about was these drug dealers down in Massachusetts. We all know about the drug corridor on I-89, I-90,
91.
I-91. These kids come up and they're tried, and well, they're not kids, right? They're 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. They're not kids. Unfortunately, we are treating them as such, or want to treat them as such. So they send them up, and then they get arrested and they go through juvenile court, right? But this bill that was out there was a bill that was going to table that implementation for 2 years. And there was an amendment offered to just kill the implementation
Period.
and make it so that the raise the age would not happen altogether.
Right.
Do you want to explain what happened with that whole process? Because we as Republicans and Democrats, we all met downstairs, had a little conversation about it and what we were, what it meant, because it was confusing, and the
Right.
amendment would have killed the raise the age.
Absolutely. And it was sponsored
Well,
by Representative Eric McGuire.
Right.
And it would have killed that provision of the bill. And if we could have gotten that amendment on there, it could have made that bill a whole lot better. But it was roll called, and it pretty much went down party lines, with the exception of Representative Sean Sweeney, who I believe represents Shelburne and a piece of another town down there. He voted with the Republicans on that one, and it just,
He voted in favor of public safety is what he did.
Yeah,
The rest of us
absolutely.
who voted in favor of the amendment.
Yeah.
It was in the best interest of public safety. And like Representative McGuire said, the one thing that kept being brought up on floor debate was brain science.
Yeah.
You got to watch the brain science. But the criminology was ignored.
Right.
And like Representative McGuire said, you can't ignore the criminology aspect of it.
And that was
And that's
what it
what
was.
happened.
Right.
And that's what happened. That
no,
was
and I
ignored.
mean, it all comes back to, the idea of accountability. And
right.
we're supposed to be implementing public safety policy that holds people accountable for their actions. And all too often in this building, we're not holding folks accountable for their actions, and that's contributing to the crime problem that we have.
And you keep raising the age, and that means that 19, 20-year-olds can commit those crimes, and because you raise the age, they get tried in juvenile court.
And I find it very funny because we're pointing to the brain science on this one, that human brains aren't fully developed, male brains until 26, I believe, female brains 22, 23. But we've got a huge push in the legislature from the Democratic Progressive supermajority to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. So
thinking
where does the
myself, we
brain
should
science
raise
come
the
into
age.
play there?
Yeah, exactly.
I've been a big commenter on that. You know,
Double
if,
standards.
If you can't, if children are children, then I mean, we're pushing that and then pushing downward on, makes you wonder why.
Well, why then are 18-year-olds allowed to sign up?
Well, exactly. I mean,
draft?
if we're
Not the
if
draft,
we're not,
but
well, you have to sign up for
Select
the
Yeah,
service.
Yeah.
selective service.
I mean, that is the question, right? Like if you're not fully developed, which I get it, right? You know, but the fact is that some responsibility. Your undeveloped mind that's voting has a huge impact on my life.
That's right.
You know, but that it is just crazy and how funny it is. That it's not really funny; it's actually kind of gross.
Well,
It's
it was a tough thing because you look at it, and if you're thinking of public safety, you're going to vote yes for the amendment, and then because there's some good things in the bill, you're voting yes on the bill, and that's what we did because it pushed it out.
But I think
It was a stopgap
It
measure.
delayed the
And
it
I think
delayed
the
start of a
important-
bad bill,
Yeah,
a bad law.
the important thing was that the amendment side of it, there was a roll call on it.
Yeah.
And it put everyone on the record.
That's right.
And if you want to know who supports,
Holding
having
people accountable.
holding
Public
people
safety.
accountable,
Yeah,
or
public safety.
public safety, exactly.
That's right.
And treating adults like adults, because they are adults in our system. You can go to the roll call and take a look at where your representative voted for it or against. All right, are you ready to want to talk about the super exciting topic of clean heat?
Of what?
Clean heat.
Clean heat?
Not my committee, but we can talk about it.
No, it's not in my committee either.
Well,
Not
what
my
it was,
committee either.
Digital infrastructure.
what it was is the Senate on S65 in part of the energy efficiency bill put an outright repeal of the clean heat standard in there. The philosophy given for it was that it was of little consequence now because of the studies that have been done, and there's other paths and avenues going forward to address efficiency. It'll be very interesting to see what that bill looks like when it crosses over to the House. There were some last minute decisions made there. I'm not sure, it came out 4-1. I'm not sure who voted against the bill, but they were able to get bipartisan support for repealing the clean heat standard. Where that will sit going forward, who knows?
So I'm trying to figure out, I tried to find the breakdown of that bill, and I could not for the life of me find out who voted for and against it. It's not clearly put on the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe because it was offered as a last-minute amendment, that's making it harder to find.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, Senator
Yeah.
Williams offered an amendment to the bill. That's why it may be harder to find.
Oh, that could be possible.
It's like that one I talked about earlier, the bailout thing didn't have a number, at least when I left there Friday.
Well, it would be nice I wanted to know who voted, because it had to have at least one Democrat, right?
Yeah, Ann Watson
I
voted
thought-
for it.
I thought she
I
voted
don't know
for
who
it.
the dissenting vote was, though.
Yeah, I thought
know.
Ann
I
got
an article,
believe
but I don't have it
believe
in my
it's I
hand.
believe it's Rebecca White. But
Oh,
don't
that would
quote
make
me on
sense.
that.
There was an article I quoted from in Granite Grok that I think broke it down pretty well. But I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, yeah, no, that does make sense if it was,
Rebecca White.
yeah. Although I don't see that she's on Senate Committee on Government Operations
But she's on two committees.
Yeah,
and Senate Committee on Transportation.
Did they move her to transportation? Yeah, she was on environment last 2 sessions ago.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's Natural Resources and
Who's
Energy.
who's
or-
on the committee?
Let's go to, so what committee is that?
Oh, I can't remember.
Is that Natural Resources and Energy?
Must
Yeah.
If I can step off camera, I'll be able to
So
grab
that's
my
Ann Watson,
article.
Terry Williams, Ruth Hardy, Seth Bonagart,
Bongartz.
and Scott Beck. Is that,
Beck voted for it. Watson voted for it. And if you give me a second, I can tell you. Oh, Tanya Vahosky,
Tanya Vuk?
I think, is on there. You'll have to excuse me.
I don't see her name on the page.
No, that's because we're in the wrong session.
Well,
Well, anyway, the point
Anyhow.
is that it passed. So it's going to eventually make its way to the House, which hopefully the House will vote for it, though, that'll be interesting. I'll tell you this, I'll be doing a roll call on that one.
I'm pretty sure that,
There'll be a roll call. Everybody's going to want a roll call on
We'll
that.
see what happens when it goes through the House committee that'll deal with it.
yeah.
I can't imagine.
And remember, that's the committee that won't let the bill in the House come off the wall.
Won't let it come off the wall. That's correct.
With all due respect, I mean, none of the committees are allowing the bills come off the wall that are House, that are also in the Senate. I've been told multiple times, it's going to come from the Senate. Like, what is your job? What is your job?
It's called gaslighting.
Well,
It's
they-
called dragging their feet.
Yeah, and they make deals with each other. Okay,
know what?
you take the lead on this, and I'll take the lead on this.
So this whole, I get very frustrated with the deal thing. Because I just believe that you should just do what's right, and let the chips fall where they fall. So I've got my interim educator bill, right? So for folks
Right.
that don't know what the interim educator bill is, back in 2022, it was passed, flying, no problems, just what sailed right through. And it allowed retired teachers to come back into the workforce.
Correct.
While collecting their pension, right? So they're double dipping, right? Just as a side note, we always complain about teachers not making enough money. This is a great opportunity to allow them to make some extra money right before or after retirement, but whatever, that's okay. That being said, so it went to government operations where it died on the wall, and I was told multiple times it ain't going anywhere. Government operations wasn't going to take it up. So then I reached out to Chris Taylor, who's the vice chair of education, and he's like, "Yeah, no, well let's take a look at this." So everybody seemed like they were on board until Friday morning
When the mafia came to testify.
mafia came to testify.
mafia came
It was.
to testify.
I'm calling my new name for them is the acronyms. The acronyms came in, and all of a sudden,
Explain who those are, Mike.
sure. So the acronyms, there's being down there, all these lobbyist groups come in, and it was the NEA, VPA, VSA, all these VPers or V organizations that are lobbyists, and they killed the amendment to the miscellaneous education bill, and it was so sad
It's
because
so hard to see something that you're passionate about go
Well,
down
exactly.
in flames.
And-
And that's something that's important to make a side note on there too, is that a lot of these initiatives at this point in time may not have made it off the wall, but there is a chance that they could be tacked onto other bills
right.
if it's germane.
right. So so this, I've already sent an email off to, and I reached out to Patty. I did the provoke, the whole,
Process.
I processed. I touched all the dots or dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. I talked to Patty. I sent an email to Peter Conlon, who's the chair, spoke to Chris Taylor, and I said, listen, I'm going to do a floor amendment on this because
then you'll get a chance to roll call them.
Correct.
And that's where
Exactly.
the action really happens,
Exactly.
Mike, is to get them on the record voting against something that, the people want to see moving.
And this bill may not have that much of an impact on Mike Tagliavia's group, right? You represent a different part of the state, but that bill that affects me. It affects the two of you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it affects the
It's a
school
very
system
unified
here.
school district.
Yeah, our school system, because our current superintendent is currently operating underneath that retired interim educator program, and we're in the midst of a superintendent search, and it's just it takes away an option for the district. May not use that option, but that's not the point. The point is it's an option that our district really needs to have. If we didn't have Joanne from last year, it would have been
We'd be in a really
we would have been
desperate
a really
situation.
tough spot. We
Yeah.
failed our budget 3 times. Joanne helped us pass it, and then we passed this budget by a large margin.
On the first shot.
Yeah, first shot, exactly. And that bill has had a huge impact on Berry City, and I really hope that
And the town.
Sorry, had a huge impact on Berry.
you
Exactly.
go.
That's what I like to use, Mike. I don't like to
Sorry.
use this city-town verbiage.
Yes, I'm used to saying
we're
the city.
just
I
the Berry
apologize.
area.
On the Barry Beach.
Yeah, this is exactly. We're on Capitol
We're on Capitol
Beat.
Beat now.
We're on
We've
Capitol
leveled
Beat.
up.
Although I will say that it starts off with the emblem of Berry Beat, and then it's got scribbled out,
Oh.
and then it does capital at the top. So
Okay.
anyway, so yeah, that'll be. I don't know how we went down that route, but I think we were talking about amendments and. Oh yeah.
Well, the power of getting people into a roll call situation.
yeah. I will say this.
That's what we need to do to get the message out and to take people to task, is to get them on the record voting for or against certain initiatives.
Yep. Will say I am very tempted to submit a bill that says that organizations that get funds from the state of Vermont can't lobby for well, they can't lobby for representatives, and they cannot give money to representatives. That's the way it really should be. We've got organizations, and it's gross to me when I see organizations coming in lobbying for money. When I look at them and I think to myself, you gave money to candidates that didn't win, just as a side note, or did win, and you're endorsing them, and it's just, it makes me feel icky. I don't like that. But that's just me. Vermont. So Alice is writing in here, and Wendy says, I hope it goes away, the clean heat standard, which I think it will. Well,
We'll
think
see how
eventually it will.
S65 works out.
yeah, hopefully
comes
it will.
to the
I mean,
House.
Ann Watson voted for it. She's a Democrat. I think
Yep.
I think
the
people,
support's there. I think that they need to make some movement on some of the things that were so pressing during the last election cycle, and clean heat's an easy one to pick off because it was ludicrous.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I think he
the
needs
writing
to-
is on the wall for that.
It needs to die, because if it doesn't, the infrastructure stays there, not just for the registry, but the idea that if it doesn't die, a future legislature, if there's enough numbers, could actually enact some
And
sort of
take
a
it back
carbon
up.
tax.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if it starts out at less than $1 a gallon, very soon it would be up to $4 like it was predicted it would get there. Look at California if you don't think it's going to happen, because California's energy prices, gas prices at the pump, and that would wind up here too.
Well, and the same thing's happening in Massachusetts. They
Yeah.
passed their clean heat standard, and it's become a huge sticky point in the election cycle. And districts that haven't gone red in 50 years
Yeah.
flipped in the last Massachusetts election cycle. So this is something that strikes people to the core, the average voter to the core, when they're looking at quadrupling their heating costs.
Right.
Yeah. Alice, I gotta read Alice's comment because it's good. Not that I don't read other people. That didn't come out the way that I meant it. This is very pertinent, though. Vermont Superintendent Association, Vermont Principals Association, National Education Association, Vermont School Boards Association, all who claim, capitalize, to support our students, teachers, and communities. Barry had made great strides with a highly skilled leader. Without the opportunity to have her for a second year puts the district at high risk of slipping back. That's a very astute response.
Absolutely.
And Wendy made a comment about my comment about a bill getting rid of those funds. 100% agree. It's the same with our state employees union. I've written many times against the union supporting candidates. Yeah, you shouldn't.
No.
All it does, and it's the dumbest thing ever, right? Because you're coming before a committee, and I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking, I know what you did. I know what you did. Why would I want to support you? That's just my opinion. You should only get your money from individuals or businesses if you want. I say businesses because I got some money from businesses, but they were individuals, so.
Right.
They're all small businesses, which were businesses or people.
Right.
People need
Vermont
to know
business
just
owner.
who the acronyms really are. Yes, that's 100%. Can we start a new thing now? Can we start calling them acronyms? Come on.
Why
Come
not?
on.
I prefer the mafia.
You prefer the acronym mafia? Mm-hmm. How about the acronym mafia?
I'm willing to compromise there.
Okay, look at this. This is how
acronym
compromise
mafia.
happens.
And this is it.
The acronym mafia. I'm going to start the AMs. Yes. Anything else you guys want to chat about?
How about chatting about what's going on in the hospitals? Remember that nurses getting beat up, doctors getting beat up in the emergency room and stuff like that?
Oh, no. Is that is that a legislative thing?
Yep, that come through our committee.
Oh, tell me. So let's talk about it because I don't know about it.
259, I think it is. H259?
We'll look
I
it up.
could be wrong. It's a workplace violence bill.
What's the driver
Yep.
of it mostly?
Workplace
Is it
violence.
drug addiction?
That's part of it. Mental health problems. People come in, they're in crisis. They have to wait for a long time. Then they finally get in there, and they're wild. And then the bedside person says, "Okay," they do the vitals and all that. "Okay, I'll be back." Meanwhile, an accident comes in, takes up their time. The person in crisis is over here. Central, as an example, Central Vermont shut down their mental health piece.
Right.
So, but this is happening all over the country. And so what they did on the 259, it set up a group of people, I'll call it a committee, and the result has to be that every hospital in Vermont has a specific plan of action that they are going to put into effect. They're going to implement that. And it's going to be developed by people who actually experienced the problem. Not somebody sitting in a cubicle, writing down numbers and stuff. This is going to be developed by those people that were affected by it. So it should be, I'm hoping that it comes out to the point where actually what people actually experienced is what we're going to prevent. And not what somebody was thinking, oh, well, we can have somebody trained to do that, but they're not on their shift. Somebody on every shift, 24 hours a day in the hospital, has to be trained to bring that situation down, calm it down.
That's exciting. That sounds like something we've actually done this year that might be good.
Yeah, well, it's been something that's been going on for too long, and the result of it is the nursing schools, their enrollment is down, nurses are leaving,
Right.
they don't want to do it anymore. Some people have been injured badly enough so that they want to come back, but they can't. So
You know,
let's hope that this, and it doesn't cost us any money anyway. The hospitals, we had Act 45 last year. It didn't work the way we wanted it to work. So this is supposed to put in some requirements that will make it work.
I hope so. 'Cause I spoke to somebody during the campaign that was a big concern for her.
Yeah.
She retired, went back to work part-time because she needed the extra money and the benefits.
If you get beat up,
And no, but she saw people who she worked with
yeah,
have issues like that. And then like you said, you have somebody gets injured, now they're out of work, and they're already short-staffed. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
issue
it's a
is actually
workforce. It's a
Yeah.
workforce tool too, because we've got so many traveling nurses coming in, and you can't tell
correct.
me that that's not driving up the cost of healthcare.
big time.
Yeah, it
Big
is.
time it is. Now, I know that around the United States, Tennessee, Virginia, and many others, I'll just name those two, Roanoke and some other town in Tennessee, they have set up what they call an interim site. I don't remember what they call it, but the first responders can take those people instead of bringing.
Someplace where it gets de-escalated.
Yeah, so they can take those people to a place where it can be de-escalated instead of going to the emergency room. And the emergency room now can do what they're supposed to do. These people are brought in to these sites, and they're big. They're like a big hospital. They staff 24 hours a day with professionals, mental health professionals. So they're taken care of there instead of going to wherever else they have to go. If it's a long-term thing that they're into, they can de-escalate, like you say, Gina, get the people to the point where they can be transferred to a long-term place. Like maybe in central Vermont, it would probably be the hospital up in the hill, the psychiatric hospital. But all of this, it all has to be coordinated. People have to agree to do things. And we got everybody to agree on the workforce violence thing. So
Good.
come out of the committee, no vote against it.
Nice.
Good.
All right, Mike.
All
Well,
right.
thank you.
Well, I'm gonna take that as a wrap. Thank you guys for coming to the Capitol Beat, and we'll definitely be doing this hopefully more often. I'll be honest with you. Up until
Shout out to Teddy Wazazak. We're
Yes,
looking forward to
yes.
having you come down,
yes,
Teddy.
and that's fully my fault. Fully my fault. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a text chain with the 5 of us so that we're all in on the information, because this is a failure on my behalf. Because Teddy said multiple times he wants to come. I feel bad because it's
You got to
like
get him
4
down here
Republicans
because
against 1.
Teddy and I have a lot of things that we worked on together this year with flooding concerns.
Yeah.
4 or 5
And,
bills at the last minute.
I know.
Yeah.
Teddy Wazazak and Gina Galfetti.
That's
Gina,
right.
Yeah,
We're
All short-term
showing,
ones.
Everybody
we're
was
showing
like-
people that you can work across the aisle, and especially when it comes to as powerful as a place as Barry,
Barry.
Vermont.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. All right. Well, with that, want to say thank you for coming, and want to thank everyone for watching the the Capital Beat podcast. And we hope you have a lovely day. Enjoy the weather. 'Cause
Thanks,
it's
Mike.
like really
Thank you.
beautiful out.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye bye.